Welcome back to FryMinis. I'm Julie, and today in our continuing Monsters of the Multiverse coverage, I'm talking about Kenkus. Guess what? That's right, I love Kenkus. I haven't had the opportunity to play one yet, but I really look forward to it. And that was even before this update came out, at which point, at least from my understanding, Kenkus pretty much just repeated noises that they had heard before. So my concept for a Kenku was just going to be a little bird that sat around and said, Kenku, Kenku. And that's literally all they did. They didn't even try to express themselves in other ways, which would allow me the opportunity to play a real wild card in my campaign. I'm excited about the updates to the Kenku because it makes it a more playable race, gives you a lot more things that you can do with it, and isn't quite as restrictive as the previous Kenku lore was. One of the many reasons that I love Kenku is this artwork. Take it in. Look at it. Isn't it the most wonderful thing that you've ever seen? As you know, I really love things that are adorable, but this really delights me because look at how not miserable, but not happy. He looks like he just woke up from like 40 minutes into what could have been a really good 2-hour nap, and he's disgruntled, and his weapons are tied to his hands, so he really just doesn't want to be here, but he's gonna fight because he has to. Not really against his will, but maybe his hands are too tired of holding them. He just looks downtrodden, and I want to play this little Kenku, because if you look like that and all you say is Kenku, Kenku, or maybe even sadder, like Kenku, Kenku, I want to play with that person at a table. I want to like that person at a table before they play this character, but I really want to be there. And most of all, I want to experience it. I'm not sure that I could hold to it because I'm a little bit more cheerful than this allows, but like, look how amazing. Think about how cool that would be. I love this artwork, and major shout out to the person who posted it on Reddit. Thank you so much. You've literally changed my life. This was my lock screen for a while because I just love this little bird. Let's take a look at the streamlined lore. Feathered folk who resemble ravens, Kenku are blessed with keen observation and supernaturally accurate memories. None of them can remember the origin of the first Kenku, however, and they often joke that there are as many Kenku origin stories as there are Kenku. Some of them paint their genesis as a curse, being a flightless bird people doomed to mimic other people's creations. Other Kenku recite cryptic but beautiful poems about their advent being a blessed event in which they were sent into the multiverse to observe and catalog its many wonders. Whatever their true origin, Kenku are most often found in Shadowfell and in the material plane, and they tend to have the coloration typical of ravens. Overall, at FryMinis, we're all about having a more welcoming, fun table to play at, and this gives players exactly that. It's easier to play a Kenku, so if playing a bird person is your dream come true, bum bum, it's now easier than ever. You're not limited to mimicking, you don't have to keep track of the limited words that you maybe know, and you don't have to ask for a DM to hand wave it. It's just not there anymore. And of course, if you still want to play a Kenku who only says Kenku, or a couple other words, the option's always there. This is a huge quality of life improvement. Looking at some of the general traits, Kenku use the same template. Ability scores are +2 and +1 or +1 to 3 abilities. We get common and one other language. We live for about a century. Nothing all that exciting here. We're used to it at this, our 400th edition of the Monsters of the Multiverse coverage. Sounds about right. Let's look at our actual Kenku traits. You are a small or medium humanoid with 30 feet of movement. Just like my favorite little buddy, you can be a small, begrudging burb. Expert duplication. When you copy writing or craft work produced by yourself or someone else, you have advantage on any ability checks you make to produce an exact duplicate. That's really interesting. It could be integral to your campaign. You could roleplay it every single session in a way that isn't annoying but is really useful to your party. Or it might never come up at all. So it really gives you that flexibility that we're always looking for in our characters. It could be great, it could be nothing, but there you have it. Kenku Recall. Thanks to your supernaturally good memory, you have proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. Moreover, when you make an ability check using any skill in which you have proficiency, you can give yourself advantage on the check before rolling the d20. You can give yourself advantage in this way a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is great. I'm always happy to take 2 new skills. Always. And that you can give yourself advantage is really awesome. I love being able to do that with any number of feats and features of my characters. Being able to give yourself advantage on demand is really nice, and that you can do that up to a number of times of your proficiency bonus means that it'll always scale well as your character gets better and better. I will say it's a little bit of a bummer that you have to choose to burn this advantage roll before you've rolled your first d20. That's kind of how inspiration is supposed to work, rules as written anyway. But it can feel a little bit icky when you roll and you get 2 20s. And if you had just been able to save a die and roll it once you knew what the first one was, you could spread out that advantage a little bit better and use it to your advantage instead of just kind of that guesswork and leaving it to the roll of the dice. That said, at FryMinis, we do inspiration a little bit differently. So instead of having to roll your inspiration and your regular D20 at the same time, we allow it so that you get to re-roll. Check the comments below for a video on how we do inspiration, which also includes bronze, silver, and gold levels. It's awesome, and I'm thankful for it every time. Mimicry. You can accurately mimic sounds you have heard, including voices. A creature that hears the sound you make can tell they are imitations only with a successful Wisdom Insight check against a DC of 8, plus your proficiency bonus, plus your charisma modifier. So here's where we get into the Kenku birdie magic that I'm pretty excited about. If someone who wasn't a Kenku tried to imitate something, that would be a performance or a deception check, right? Here, it just works. You get to be a Kenku, you can mimic things. That's a skill that you have that doesn't need a check or a performance roll or a deception check or anything like that. Let's talk about an example where this would just automatically work. If you're walking in a crowded town and you hear a scream for help down an alley, even if it's from a Kenku, you wouldn't know that. It would just sound believable to you. You would rush off going for help. You have no reason to doubt that or to make that insight check. So at our table, someone would have to have a reason to make that insight check. If they heard the king's voice saying, "I'm going to give you my whole kingdom," that might seem out of character, and that would maybe cause someone to want to perform an insight check on that. Or if they were talking to a person and all of a sudden they heard their voice in the other room that the Kenku was mimicking, there can be some sloppiness that necessitates, or some sketchiness maybe, that necessitates that insight check. But for the most part, people just believe you. As this is written, that's the way we would roll it at our table anyway. There has to be a reason for someone to want to make that check, and they have to burn their action doing it. Otherwise, the Kenku just gets away with it, I guess. As you can tell, I'm excited about it. And yes, I love Kenku. I think they're adorable. And I'm really, really, really excited for the more playable option that we have here. And as adorable as I think this little raven Kenku is, and we all know that like corvids are super smart and they can remember human faces, and I'm a little bit scared of the ones in my yard, but with good reason, and I'm trying to earn their respect, but it's not really working out all that great. That's another video, don't worry about it. Or come join us on Discord and I'll tell you all about it. One thing that I wish we saw here was a little, like a tiny little note, like a yes, they look like ravens or corvids or whatever you want to say, but like, it'd be really cute to have a penguin Kenku at the table. That's just one thing that I wish this book included. And while they don't say, P.S. you should play a penguin, they do say that Kenku tend to look like ravens. So stretch that tend to the max as far as you can. Let's run away with it in the spirit of having fun and having cute little birds at your table. Have you ever played a Kenku in the comments? I want to hear all about it. But in the meantime, I'll be hanging out on our Discord server and at FryMinis.com. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.